Welcome back to the Faculty Factory podcast in the lovely, enchanting island of Galveston in the big state of Texas. That's right, folks. And I'm looking at our beloved President and CEO, Dr. Jochen Reiser. Hi, Jochen.
Hi, Kim. It's wonderful to be with you today.
Again, Dr. Reiser is here with us. He is an MD, PhD. He's a physician scientist who started off in the Black Forest. He's made his way through a number of states in our country, and he is now here leading the University of Texas Medical Branch. And innovation is his key word and favorite word. And so I've asked Dr. Reiser to kind of help us as leaders and future leaders learn from his wisdom of how we make decisions. How do we make transition decisions? How do we decide to move and strategize what we're going to do and then how we implement? So again, thank you, Dr. Reiser. Why don't you just take it away and lay it on us?
Well, it's true. I started out in Germany, and there's something very peculiar about the German system, and that is when you go through medical school, you end up not graduating as an MD, you graduate as a physician. You have the same rights, you can see patients, you can do everything. But in order to get the MD letters that everybody kind of wants, at least when you're young and up and coming, you have to do a research project. And that typically goes 3 to 4 months. And then you get your MD thesis stamp and you graduate with an MD. And so in my case, that's why I ended up at molecular biology, cell biology laboratory around kidney disease and kidney cell cultures and molecular biology. And I loved it so much that I extended my 3 to 4 months to a full 5-6 year PhD. That really changed my life. And I would say if it weren't for that part of the German curriculum, of that demand, of that need, of that system setup, I would probably not have come to the United States, because with that research in my backpack, I was invited to go to Albert Einstein College at the Bronx and do a postdoc. And who does not fall in love with New York? And then from there, I decided to really come here and into the United States and do my internal medicine residency, which I did at Einstein, and then followed by nephrology fellowship at Mass General and Brigham in Boston. And again, based on that research in kidney disease and kidney cells that I've done. And from there, I went to University of Miami and then Rush and now UTMB. So I would say that was a very important element, this exposure to early research and early education. And early, I mean very early in one's life, because that's when we are most impressionable. And we know this, things come easy for children and young adults. We just learn fast. And that became my true North Star. And I followed it always. And whenever there was a better opportunity, I made a move. So that's one part. I think the other part, Kim, is you ask me how I make decisions. Perhaps when do I take off from one place and go to the other? I'm grateful, and I mean this truly, to all the places that I've been, because each of the places had different strengths. At Harvard, I would say undoubtedly it was the academic component, but perhaps the patient care and how we educate people and how we somewhat came together was not perhaps the best I've seen. I saw more of that at the University of Miami, where everybody was so excited. It was a fantastic young faculty life together and a lot of support with each other. And that's where innovation was in capital letters. And that was great to learn. And then at Rush in Chicago, it was the patient care, because ultimately in academic healthcare, that's what we do. We want to make people better. And so I said to myself, one day, if I can make it to an institution where I have significant leadership position, then I want to bring all of these missions together, right? The academic side, but also the community side and how we have faculty affairs and student life and innovation, but also then again, patient care. And I think we are trying to do this, and we're doing this well here at UTMB. So whenever I felt I'm being done with one part or with one of those 4 missions at a place, and I can really make a higher dent or higher mark, I should say, then I feel like I need to move on. And so finally, I found that institution where all those 4 domains, all 4 missions are treated equally. And that's why I'm so happy to be here. And I think you have gotten a glimpse of that in your first several months of employment here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that journey.
I would say stay true to your mission. Stay true to your passion, how you started out. And if this lies in patient care, then find a place that values patient care, but also has the other components of an academic career and institution. Because ultimately, we need all components: research, education, clinical care, and innovation. But stay true to what brought you there to begin with. And it's very easy and understandable to settle and say, you know what, that's it. I just can't do more. And it's okay if I'm not really that happy. And I think we need to resist that. I've seen several people who I thought were outstanding sort of like settle for that part and never really came back out happily from it. And I have not done that.
Mhm.
Now, have I done everything right? No, of course not. Nobody does. But I made research my true north. And that was certainly a guide for me that helped me through the institutions. But I also, as I said earlier, I learned to acknowledge the other parts and how important they are. And ultimately, they all need to come together. And then you need to ask yourself from time to time by looking in the mirror, is this still the place where I truly want to be part of this place's mission? And it's a hard answer sometimes, but be honest to yourself. And if the answer is no, or I'm not so sure, it's really time to then take a look.
Dr. Ludi Shi. Hi, Ludi.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm so good. Let me tell you who Dr. Shi is. She's an MD, MMSC, FAAN, FANA. She is an associate professor of neurology. She is the director of Deep Brain Stimulation Program at Boston University School of Medicine. Go ahead, Ludi.
Well, great. I'll go back to training because, like maybe a lot of people, I ended up doing my internship in medicine, neurology residency, fellowship in movement disorders, all at one place. And I became a faculty member at that place. And this was at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center in Boston, part of the Harvard Medical School teaching hospital system. So I ended up doing movement disorders fellowship, ended up developing a great interest in Parkinson's disease, dystonia, tremor, all the things that we are able to actually treat with surgical therapies, which has been just one of the blessings, in neurology, especially, in the 80s and 90s, very nihilistic point of view about therapies for neurologic diseases. So I was immediately drawn to this area as a field. And I had great mentorship, wonderful faculty around who really showed me the ropes. I did not really have anyone in my family in medicine, let alone academic medicine, let alone at a Harvard teaching hospital. So I was really grateful for folks around me, like my mentors, Dan Tarsi and David Simon, to show me the ropes. And I did that for a while. And I think that I was a valued member of the faculty. But, right around year 7 or 8, after being on faculty, started feeling like, gosh, am I doing what I should be doing? And boy, I really love clinical research, but boy, is it hard to also get funding to protect your time to do that. And boy, I love taking patients, but it's hard work too. And I wish I had more help. And also, I'm just curious about all these other areas that are happening. And lo and behold, now we're starting to think about innovation in new medicines and genetic therapies for neurologic diseases. And here I am, I'm sitting across the river from Cambridge, Massachusetts. And the ecosystem here in Boston is just phenomenal for exchange of ideas across public and private sectors. And I just was thinking, what would it be like if I actually went into research and development in a biotech or pharmaceutical company? And so I started exploring this, and I didn't really find one that I liked at first. And I thought, well, let me just see how this grant goes. And, I kind of want to finish this project. And, well, this is a cool idea. I'm going to work with these folks, and this will be enough. But at the end of the day, I asked myself, and I said, will I have regretted not trying this? And I told myself, yeah, I would very much regret it if I closed myself off to another opportunity to learn. Because I think for me, that's what drives a lot of decisions I make. I make decisions often by, of course, the benefit and the impact it might have on other people, but also am I going to grow from this? And that's what I decided to do. So that's where I went. And I joined a company at first that was well known for creating neurologic therapies. This is a company called Biogen, and a lot of neurologists know them because they've been making medicines for people with multiple sclerosis. But they really had a mission to try to treat neurodegenerative diseases like the ones for the patients I'd been taking care of. And as you know, often when you're taking care of people with chronic serious illnesses, you begin to think, am I really doing anything for these patients? And I started working on programs with other neurologists who had trained just like myself and other scientists who trained in the same, hospitals and labs and universities that we all have been to. And it was actually a really fun environment. I really got time to sit and think and read more than I'd really ever read before about some of the, the biological basis of the diseases of patients that I've been taking care of and treating. And tremendously eye-opening experience. And I had great fun doing it. So I'm an example of someone, like many, I think, because I've been reached out to a lot, physicians who are contemplating, a career in industry. But as I'll tell you more, that story didn't end with me staying in industry. So what happened? So I ended up feeling like I had a lot of contributions to make, but I also felt a little bit like, this is an area that I wonder what it would have been like had I known, what are some of the ways in which we can conduct clinical research in the academic setting that would line up better with the potential impact on patients, and whether that's new therapies or even better natural history studies or better biomarker studies or even better epidemiologic studies to help us understand how big of a problem really is this, and who is the population that needs this medicine, and what is their, natural history or progression of the disease. And so I started to think about these a lot in terms of Parkinson's disease. And I realized really in my role as a clinician before, I didn't have sort of access to or a network that would enable me to spend time thinking about these questions. And so I tucked that in the back of my pocket, and I thought, well, I'm still, interested and enjoying working on the programs here. I will say there was a personal aspect to the way the work is constructed in industry that's different in academic medicine. And for someone like me, who really enjoys working in teams, not been one to really, be obsessed about taking singular credit for anything. I've always been on teams that I've been proud to be a part of, even if I wasn't the top dog. I was, I'll go back to my, cross country and track and field days in high school. I was really, really proud to be of a high performing team, but I was nowhere near the best or fastest person. But to be part of it, to be part of the environment where you're contributing to that always drove me. And so in industry, you have that. And I just think that there are lessons learned there that we can take, back into academia. So did that for a while. Actually even switched to another company because I thought I was following a person who I thought would be a fantastic mentor. And true to form, with the volatility of the industry, she calls me up 3 days before I start and says, I won't be here. I'm leaving the company. So I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So that was another issue that I faced. And I still joined the company, still did what I was brought in to do. This was at Vertex Pharmaceuticals. And they're a very exciting company because they're creating a lot of therapies for strongly genetically defined diseases, which I think are very tractable from a biological standpoint. And they were very interested in a lot of severe, serious neurologic diseases that are highly genetically determined. And so I did that work, and I did a lot of the pre-work for a lot of programs that were about to be coming into the company, and enjoyed that a lot too, because I got to, again, be around really smart physicians, physician scientists, regulatory people, biomarker people, pharmacology people. I just learned so much, but then ultimately decided, I really miss getting to work in the area that actually, looking back, I had actually built up a fair amount of expertise in. I didn't know it at the time. And truthfully, I think when I was leaving academia, that's when all the appreciation came in for everything that I was doing. And I thought, well, maybe now that I know, maybe I can leverage some of the experiences and go back and fashion a career. Whereas because in academic medicine, right, you have the ability, we have this enormous privilege to shape our careers. How many people can say that they have a job like that? And sure, there's constraints. Sure, there's red tape. Sure, there's, the need to do, be someone who's clinically productive or productive on grants and so forth. But, within those constraints, right, we have a fair amount of say of what we get to work on. And that's very unique. And so that's really sort of how I ended up back in academic medicine.
Well, friends, I'm so happy. I can't stop smiling. I'm looking at a friend and colleague who is now a third-time guest, frequent flyer on the Faculty Factory podcast, Miss Janet Bickle. Janet is a long-time leading coach in academic medicine. Everyone in academic medicine and faculty affairs knows Janet Bickle.
I'm 75, and many of my clients over the past few years especially have been in this, I would call, late career transition phase where they have a lot of energy, but they know they're going to be retiring soon, even though retiring doesn't seem to fit. And so I was asking Kim, what are you experiencing with regard to this level of faculty? Let's try to write about it. And so Kim submitted academic medicine last month.
So Janet, again, is being humble. She had written a 4 or 5 page manuscript and said, come on, Kim, what do you think about this? Let's talk about it. We have the same passion, the same interest. I'm a gerontologist, and we had Janet come to Hopkins and talk with our women clinician investigators. And she knows that I have this, I'm trying to marry my faculty development and gerontology interests through my publications and my work with wonderful national colleagues looking at late career transitions and expectations around retirement. What had happened was, so Janet had sent me her version. We kind of talked back and forth about how we could flesh out this manuscript on what we in leadership in academic health centers around the country can do to support later career faculty, advanced career faculty, as we refer to them. And then the January 2025 issue in Academic Medicine came out where Editor Roberts, she had a nice summary of the issue's articles, and it was entitled From Launch to Leadership, Successfully Navigating an Academic Career Path. And of course, that whole article is like right up our alley in terms of faculty developers, how we want to absolutely launch early career faculties into leadership positions, and if not positions, having that leadership mindset. And then it just dawned on me, oh my gosh, Janet we're working on this great article. Why not pull that thread forward from launch to leadership to landing pad, helping faculty navigate a post-academic glide path? And that's where Janet and I had so much fun with the letter and trying to hone it down to be really concise and brief, but to make our point that we feel like institutions can do a lot to help faculty navigate a glide path after they're done with full-time employment. After all, 21% of all the faculty in U.S. medical schools are age 60 plus. 21%, so over a fifth of faculty are aged 60 and older. So Jana, why don't you, in all your decades of working in this space and coaching so many faculty members and writing many articles about this, why don't you get us going and thinking about it?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. When I started thinking about this, I was thinking that actually fear and loathing in late career might be a useful framework, because all of this 21% of high-performing professionals, very achievement-oriented, a lot of expertise, and our culture has reinforced their dedication to their work with high earnings and prestige. And naturally, many in this late career phase who still have a lot of energy may be loath to surrender this prestige and this influence, and at the same time as looking at reality, the need for a transition, but with ambivalence. And so how can schools help this great talent pool who is facing this, what some might call post-work phase, help them with this transition, because transitions are always chaotic and they offer opportunities for creative re-examination. And that's what we're encouraging here. And I've got some ideas about what that looks like. But in the meantime, I think it's important to give faculty permission to talk about how de-skilled they might feel facing a calendar with a lot of open space. And it may be the first time in their life that they didn't have an immediate goal or an immediate vision of where they wanted to go. And so this can feel very disorienting. And who do you confide in? Who's going to feel sorry for a highly successful, financially secure person who's looking at more leisure time? And yet there's these real psychological dilemmas that I find high-performing professionals have a difficult time talking about. One of the most useful findings from the literature around this comes from George Valent's study of adult development. And what we know is that when career consolidation phase can be followed by a generativity phase in terms of spending most of your energy or a great deal of your energy guiding the next generation, then those in their 70s tend to be healthier and happier when they can focus on guiding the next generation. And when you look at, humankind forever, that's been true, to help the next generation during as you age. But one of the challenges in academic medicine is that the career consolidation phase, the pressure on faculty to produce, continues to last all the way up until you retire or you work out a part-time arrangement. And so there hasn't really been a chance to just really focus oneself on that goal of guiding the next generation, but it can become a legitimate goal. And I think institutions can really help faculty in that regard.
Thanks for tuning in to the Faculty Factory podcast. We are a faculty development community sharing tools to build academic leaders in healthcare. Maybe you want to be interviewed on the podcast? Please visit facultyfactory.org/contact and send me a message there. The Faculty Factory podcast and website is sponsored by the Office of Faculty Affairs at the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas.